Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 7 of Not Quite Cinema.
7, yeah.
Where we talk to movies and shows, grab our eyes, turn off our brains, and make a few folks out there say, that is not quite cinema.
Yeah.
Jeremy, hit us with the agenda today. We have a lot to cover.
Yeah.
And a new person to introduce as well.
We do. Okay, so we have, first of all, our Peacemaker series review. We got our finale this week.
Go.
Super exciting. Really good. I loved it. We have our Batman countdowns continuing. We watched Kilmer and Clooney have their takes.
The Joel Schumacher films.
Yeah. We got 2 Super Bowl spots for Marvel. We got a Moon Knight trailer, a new one, and a lot of Doctor Strange. We did. And then we went and saw Uncharted this week.
Oh boy, did we.
We're going to talk about that. And Francis Ford Coppola, I'm pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Coppola. He had a little interview in which I don't know, he's hopping on the Martin Scorsese train. He is.
The exact type of person that inspired this entire podcast.
Very true, very true. All right, let's jump in the Peacemaker series review.
Peacemaker. I've been waiting to praise this show, and I felt like I couldn't say anything because all like superhero shows that we've gotten have fizzled out by the end of the series,
I
right?
would agree with that, yeah.
And I didn't want to say like, oh, I don't want to praise it. I don't want to say like it's the best show that we've gotten for like any sort of like superhero genre. But Jeremy, I can solidify it, and I can proudly say now,
very much so.
This is the best superhero show that we have ever gotten.
Whoa.
Marvel, DC. Well, I should say best superhero streaming show with like the resurgence, or not resurgence, the rise of popularity of streaming. This is the best one that's come out. Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely, I agree.
Peacemaker's emotions, John Cena's acting.
Wow.
The chemistry between the cast, the directing, the music, the gore and the violence, and the just absolute fun that you could have while watching this series. It solidified. It was my favorite show this year, like 100%.
By far. I mean, I had just like recently finished Daredevil. I mentioned that a while ago, so I'm not gonna call it peak superhero TV yet, but yeah, this got real close for me. It was. This finale, I was so worried that it was going to fall off because WandaVision did that. Falcon and Soldier did that well before the finale.
Like halfway through the season.
And Loki, I think, kind of petered off too, kind of halfway through the season. But this show finished strong.
Very strong.
I got to say, I'm just going to start off hot. My favorite moment. Give me that theme song scene, man. Give me that theme song scene where they're just kicking ass. Like that was by far my most favorite part of the entire show.
I totally thought I was about to say like, yeah, me too, Jeremy, but you didn't mention
what was your
Justice League showing up at the end.
I did not see that coming.
I don't know if it's like they cut Batman out or anything because they don't know what they're gonna do with him with Flash, but
I guess so.
I like the like image of Batman being stuck in traffic.
Yeah, that was more my interpretation. Was like, okay, Flash has super speed, Wonder Woman and Superman. They are like super fast and can fly.
What did Aquaman do? How do you get
Aquaman?
there?
I don't know. Maybe he has like superhuman jumping. That's probably a thing. Like, but Batman, I do get this kind of feeling of like this man's just stuck in traffic somewhere.
Like I didn't need to see him because I feel like just the appearance of like those characters popping up at the very end. He goes, you're late, fuckers.
I like the way that James Gunn takes the like I watched the Guardians movies recently. I love how he takes these opportunities with bigger universes and introduces some canonic bullshit. Like he canonized Green Arrow being a brony in this episode. Like John Economos said, no confirmed, that's real. Green Arrow's a brony, so not only does he exist in this universe, badass character, by the way, can't wait to see if he's actually in this universe at some point, but like, he's a brony. Like, that's such a fun detail that James Gunn can just canonize.
And he canonized, like, Aquaman saying, I'm so tired of the fucking fish rumor. Like, I fuck fish. And Barry's like, oh, it's not a rumor.
It's not a rumor, guys.
I was like,
it's true.
Shit, he actually fucks fish, dude.
Yeah, I love the character work they do in this, and I love how the Justice League showing up was such an afterthought. Like, I had such a big issue with Book of Boba Fett because Mandalorian came in, the cameos came in, and it took over the show. I mean, again, they didn't have as much screen time, the Justice League, but like, still, they were an afterthought. They like Peacemaker walked past them. I'm like, yeah, fuck those guys. Like,
it's like
whatever.
The equivalent of what happened in Boba Fett. Boba Fett isn't even on the agenda, but we're bringing it up.
Yeah.
But what happened with Boba Fett? If you were to like equivalize it to like Peacemaker, it's like if Peacemaker was in a show and then like Deadshot came in or something like that from like Suicide Squad, and then we just saw like 2 episodes with him instead, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's so weird what happened in Boba Fett. Anyway.
Yeah, I just feel bad about it. But I mean, getting back to Peacemaker, yeah, my favorite parts of this show, or not this show, but this finale, I love the absolute suspense I feel all the way throughout. Like, I'm not anxious or nervous like I am when I'm watching like a movie like Whiplash, where I am anxious and nervous all the time. But like, oh my goodness, the absolute like nervousness I felt going into that final battle, because James Gunn. I'm like, he could kill everybody, and I got the vibe like Vigilante got shot in the back, and he like tossed the knife back and killed that guy, and I was like, oh my god, is Vigilante? Is he dead? Like, is he just done? But no, he's back. He's fine. He walks over at the end. He's like, hey guys, how you doing? And he just collapses in a hospital and is okay. I love the way he finishes off. By the way, just hops out the window. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I love. It's like he looked high up. I don't think he jumped like 10 feet down. He just went. No, just jumped out.
Seems like 3 stories.
3 stories in. All right, you want to get into our little ratings of what we are gonna give this show?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, for me, this show landed like just below Daredevil. I gave it an 8.8.
8.8.
That was what I gave it. Which for me, I believe, kind of lands in this spot of, wow, this was really just amazing, and I love it so much. Like, I genuinely would watch this show over and over again. The arcs are beautiful. The relationships are perfect to me. The acting is, I can't describe it as anything other than stellar. It's so good. So good.
Well, Jeremy, like I said in my intro, is the characters came first in this show.
Very much so.
And it really helped build the quality of the overarching story and Peacemaker as a whole. So I think the attention to detail in every single episode, the music, everything, the aesthetic,
the way
killing,
James Gunn uses
action.
Music. Oh, wow.
Yo, I want him to make me a playlist.
For real. I just,
in like a way that he's like in love with me kind of thing. I want to see what that's like.
Absolutely.
Anything that I can want. Yeah. So, but what I'm going to say about this is it was amazing. Jeremy, I'm going to give it a cinema killer designation.
Really?
I'm going to say this streaming show is a cinema killer. It is an example of where we're headed, and I'm giving it a 9.1 out of 10.
I think that's fair. I think that's perfectly fair.
It's factual.
I definitely think, that's what I was looking for earlier. I was like,
cinema killer.
What's the buzzword we use? Like, cinema killer. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Like, this show draws me into. If every show, go ahead.
Peacemaker also delves into like, because there's like an Avengers problem in the MCU where it's no one can have like a small story.
Yeah.
You know?
Because like, where's the Avengers?
Yeah.
Why didn't they show
up? It's like a huge problem, and I think that's why they're delving into the multiverse so hard right now to like get rid of.
Break it up.
Yeah. But even then, the multiverse is huge. No one's like, is anyone ever gonna have like, he kidnapped my girlfriend again? Like, you know.
Yeah, I gotta say, and I guess this isn't exactly Peacemaker talk, but like, I gotta say, like with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, it felt so out of place in this next phase, because I mean, we're going big scale. We're going, Loki went multiverse, WandaVision went reality warping, like Eternals went ancient. It feels so out of place because these street level stories just don't really have a spot.
That's where I think, like, if DC can continue with its success, I mean, maybe Warner Brothers saw this coming like a mile away, where it's like, well, they're gonna run out of ideas eventually, right?
Probably.
Where it's gonna be like, because in the comics, it's like, it's a never-ending story where you can just like play pretend and be like, oh, this isn't like a continuation on a comic from 30 years ago or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
So I think Warner Brothers is in this field where they're kind of in the driver's seat for the superhero genre.
Yeah.
Where they're not attached to like any one character, because Ben Affleck's not coming back. We don't know if Henry Cavill's 100% coming back.
I hope he does.
But they can create these stories that aren't attached to each other. They can create the Joker and not have it be attached to the Batman.
Absolutely.
Right? But these movies are still going to be quality, and they're still going to make billions of dollars.
Very much
so.
Yeah.
And it's like,
because it's a huge IP
and
already.
Then we have Peacemaker here, where it's like he deals with like, it is a world-ending scenario, but it's the fact that it was written so well where it's, you don't need the Justice League. Then the Justice League showing up isn't crazy. It's like not important.
I think for me, I spent a lot of this episode actually thinking like, and I mean, they address it, Adebayo says it earlier in the episode, like, can you call in the Justice League? She's on the phone with Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
I also love how she just outs everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was something I wondered the whole time. I'm like, damn, where's the big guns? Like, this is really, like, this is a world threat. Like, this is a world-ending threat. And, you know, I just loved the juxtaposition of, we didn't need the Justice League to do that. We could just use a helmet and blow up the building. Yeah. That's it. That's all we needed.
So good.
I cannot
wait for season 2.
Yeah, that was the one question I was left with, and we'll move on here because we have to. But yeah, that's the one question I'm left with. Is like, where's season 2 going to take me? I have no idea because it already got renewed, and I'm happy it did. And the thing is, so excited to see what happens.
I feel like if it's another world-ending event, it's not going to have that problem in the back of your mind, like, where's the Justice League? Because I'm going to be like, Peacemaker's got this.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, you don't need the Justice League.
I'm going to get overconfident now. That's what's going to happen.
Imagine if the MCU could do that, where it's like Spider-Man has it, and he's like, I don't need to call Doctor Strange. I don't need to call Iron Man or any of the Avengers, you know?
Yeah, I do think at some point this, like, interconnectedness is a weakness.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun to build this overarching universe, all these stories connected in different ways, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm like, man, I have to jump through so many hoops just to make this movie barely passable and understandable. At some point it gets annoying.
A movie like the Batman is just gonna...
It's gonna take off because it's not connected to anything.
It's not tied down.
Yeah, I have no contextual, like... I have no contextual, expectations.
Yeah.
Like, for this movie. Nothing at all. But all right, like, do you have any more thoughts to add?
No,
Peacemaker?
amazing show. Season 2, 9.1, cinema killer.
Really excited to see this.
All right, let's move on here.
Next up's our Batman countdown. I mean, we watched some shit movies.
Here's the thing. The generation before us, Jeremy.
Yeah.
They watched like the Keaton, right? The Keaton films.
1989,
and we kind of like grew up on, well, me personally, because my parents like wouldn't exactly let me see the Nolan films because they were a little dark or whatever.
Dad had he had the DVDs.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
But like the Kilmer and the Clooney, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin, they were our movies, Jeremy. They were for our age group.
I hate that that's true.
So let's start with the better one of the two, the Schumacher films.
Go ahead.
Batman Forever.
Oh, thank God. Okay, yeah.
And when also, why the fuck is it called Batman Forever?
I have no idea.
No clue.
Clue. Like, it never comes into play. It never does.
I was like, I was feeling like, why is it called Batman Forever? By the way, it was like halfway through the movie, I'm like, why Batman Forever? And I think they were trying to say that like Batman was just like he was on the fence about being Batman, and by the end of the film, he figures out like it's Batman Forever.
Yeah,
like I'm like, what? Okay, I mean, I guess.
I just like so many aspects of this movie don't land for me in any kind of.
Bro, you love saying about movies or shows that you don't like. It didn't land for me.
Okay, I'm just saying like that. That's genuinely how it feels every time. I'm like, this really just. It didn't work for me. It just didn't mesh well with what I kind of thought this movie could be.
Yeah.
Like, Val Kilmer to me on this watch was not as bad as I remember him being.
Not at all.
But I mean, both of the villains, I'm sorry, Jim Carrey fans, hardcore Jim Carrey fans. He was bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. He was bad as the Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones, I'm sorry, the costuming was ridiculously horrible.
Let's get into that. Let's get into the aesthetic, right?
Horrible.
So we have the original 2 Burton films. Very dark, penguins in it. Grungy.
Yeah.
And like black and white, almost noir.
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say noir-like.
And it's just not, it's not made for kids.
No.
Even though it's like the superhero is supposed to be for kids and sell toys and all that.
Yeah, but I mean, it feels like a period film.
That's what it feels like. Like some sort of like 1940s Gotham or something like that, So what happened was the studio didn't like Batman was making money at the box office, right?
Yeah.
But like the audience for selling merchandise and toys wasn't exactly there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that would make sense.
If you were to watch all these movies back to back, these first 4 movies, you would see the tonal shift. Insane tonal shift. Where you go from Penguin with black goop coming out of his mouth and being electrocuted and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then you get like Batman's in Tokyo, Japan in the next movie in Batman Forever, where everything's neon. There's like signs everywhere. And for some reason, buildings are purple and yellow and stuff like that.
I swear to God,
and the sky is pink.
The sky's pink, yeah.
I was like, I was watching that and I said,
that was so funny.
I said to my girlfriend Alice, I'm like, is the sky pink? Is my TV broken right now? Why is the sky pink? That doesn't make sense. Is like the pollution in Gotham that bad or something?
I'm connecting Book of Boba Fett to everything here. It's like the cyber teens showing up. It's out of the vibe. Like,
bro, this was like the Spy Kids, the years of like Spy Kids and shit.
Yeah,
dude, they were so trying to sell toys. Why the fuck does Batman, the Dark Knight, who has to go in the shadows, have LEDs all over his fucking car?
It makes no sense. Man.
It makes no sense. It's like the creative choices made in this movie are not grounded in the character whatsoever.
It's to sell shit.
And so, and not only Batman, but the other characters as well. So we get Jim Carrey, who was huge in the late 90s, early 2000s, right?
Very true, yeah.
But they really just let Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything else. Like,
Very
I
much
feel
so.
like he was the mask. Like, the character he was playing was the mask. Like, he was doing twists
pretty
and
accurate,
turns,
actually,
and he had
yeah.
like the same cadence and everything. But I think the mask was just Jim Carrey, and then the Riddler was just Jim Carrey. They didn't. I don't think, like, what kind of direction did they give him on set to be like,
Yeah, I gotta say,
hey, do this, be like the Riddler, be like the Riddler. But they
Yeah.
probably just said, all right, say your lines.
Yeah, I gotta say, they I think that it felt that way, that there was very little direction.
Yeah.
That it was really just like, all right, guys, here's your scene, here's your lines, these are characters' motivations. Y'all just have fun now, okay?
If you want to know,
y'all do what you
if
feel
you have
right.
not seen this film ever in your life, you just put on the first 2 minutes of the movie. You put on the first 2 minutes of the movie where it's giving you the intro. The credits are rolling with Joel Schumacher, Tim Burton film,
Yeah.
Val Kilmer, and then it goes into the Batcave, and the Batmobile rises up,
Mhm.
and then Alfred says, "You know what I'm about to say."
Yeah.
Alfred asks him, "Master Wayne, should I prepare you a sandwich?" And Batman looks at him and goes, "I'll get drive-through." And then he hops in. He says, "I'll get drive-through," and then he hops into the Batmobile and goes, I'm like, holy mackerel!
You gonna get drive-through in the Batmobile, bro?
It's like that's the.
I don't believe
they
you.
were just trying to make it so unserious.
Yeah,
they were trying to. It was just
Very much so.
unbelievable. Let's talk about the behind the scenes, though.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened between Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey behind the scenes?
Yes, actually,
You do.
I do.
So for the audience out there, what happened was Tommy Lee Jones wasn't exactly a fan of the film to begin with, and then the whole film, I feel like, I don't want to say was carried, but was so heavily reliant on Jim Carrey as the Riddler that it really sent ripples throughout the whole film.
Yes, it did.
So when Tommy Lee Jones doesn't like the film to begin with, you can imagine he doesn't like Jim Carrey. So one day, offset, Jim Carrey goes out to dinner. He sees Tommy Lee Jones. He goes up to Tommy Lee Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones says, "I really don't like you. I hate you." Just straight up, face to face. "I hate you, by the way."
It's kind of rude.
And then Jim Carrey said, "Well, why?" Right? And Jim Carrey's a nice guy. He goes, "Wait, why? What's going on? Did I do something?" And Tommy Lee Jones says, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery."
Blunt. I'll give him that.
What the fuck? "I cannot sanction your buffoonery."
I cannot sanction his
you're
buffoonery.
in the movie.
Yeah, you're in Batman Forever. I wish you had the historical context of knowing how stupid that statement is, knowing the movie that they're in.
"I cannot sanction your buffoonery." I sound just like him. Holy
Fucking
shit!
ridiculous, dude. Fucking ridiculous.
All right, what do you want to say about Batman Forever, Jeremy?
Okay, the only thing that I mean that pretty much sums up how I feel about it. This movie's just awful to me. I think it's so bad. But I mean my biggest note about this movie, okay, they misspent their budget on everything. It just was bad, and the sound effects.
Why does Robin have bat hair like nipples on his costume? And Batman didn't.
A great question, and we'll get to that in Batman and Robin too.
Oh, true.
So just to finish up on a Batman Forever, I honestly really hated this film. For me, it doesn't leave that category of, man, if streaming was around in 1994 or 1995,
This is
whenever they made this,
DVD.
This is a straight to DVD streaming at home movie. Like, oh my gosh, like it was just horrible to me. I didn't like really anything about this movie. But yeah, let's
it kind of has a special place in my heart just for nostalgia.
I guess so,
Yeah.
but I mean, still, like, I just watched it and I'm like, man, objectively, this just sucks. Like,
Well, let's go into, oh my god, another Joel Schumacher film.
Batman and Robin.
The biggest toy commercial ever made.
Oh my god.
Go for it.
Okay, so this movie was even worse than I remember, and even worse than its predecessor. First of all, we forgot to mention. Also, I think we both realized on this this recent rewatch that these two movies are supposed to be a continuation of Michael Keaton's Batman's character, like just recasted in two other movies.
Yeah,
which makes it all the more ridiculous and terrible because I mean, didn't match the tone, and like you said, tonal shift to like toy commercials basically. But yeah, my biggest notes for this: what the fuck is a Batman credit card, bro? He whips that shit out, and it just has the bat symbol on it. It says Batman. It says valid through forever. Batman forever. Hey, nice little.
Oh, that's why they called it for the.
Yeah, for the credit card. For the credit card. I just this movie was, in a word, preposterous. This movie was just fucking ridiculous.
What the fuck were they thinking?
George Clooney. I'm sorry, bro. What on earth happened in this movie? You were. I mean, Ben tells me you were good in Oceans. I haven't seen it myself. My God, this was some of the worst acting I have ever seen from everybody. I didn't like anyone's performance.
I mean, Val Kilmer is kind of like a 90s name, right?
Yeah, he is.
You should have like stepped away as soon as you heard Val Kilmer wasn't coming back, you know?
I think so, yeah.
And after you saw what they did, what Joel Schumacher did with like the last one, it had to be in the paycheck. It had to be in the paycheck.
I guarantee
what am I talking about? Don't you care about the artistic integrity of Batman?
This is merchandising rights, bro.
Bro, I'm like, what the fuck? What am I talking about? George Clooney probably got paid a fortune to do that.
100%, he probably did. I mean, we'll look it up later, but yeah, I assume he did. The lowest points of this movie were surprisingly somehow with how terrible George Clooney was as Batman. My lowest points are the villains. My lowest.
You don't like the ice puns?
I don't like the ice puns.
The dinosaurs.
Poison Ivy, literally, first of all, Bane doesn't utter, I think, a legible word in any of this.
No, it's just Spanish.
Wait, what? He speaks in Spanish?
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Because I was pretty sure he was just like grunting and mumbling the whole time.
You totally thought you were about to get canceled.
Yeah, I thought it did. I was like, oh no, dude, I made a mistake. But yeah, no, the thing that really did it for me, that I was like, man, this is getting like a sub 20-ish score.
Yeah.
Like,
were the ice puns?
It wasn't the ice puns. It was when Poison Ivy got defeated in her little lair. She fell backwards. Girl literally said curses. She said curses, bro. Curses?
She ad-libbed that, bro.
Oh my god.
The improvisation.
Bro. That was the worst thing I've
insane.
ever seen in my entire life. What did you think of this movie?
Here's the thing. When I look back on these films before we rewatched it, I always thought Batman and Robin was the better movie. But as a wise young man, I realized I was wrong.
Yeah.
And when I think about, why did I like the Batman and Robin movies so much, is because I had all the toys for it. I had like the ice Batmobile where they were
you
like
were
skating.
The target audience.
I was the target audience, and they got me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, wow, they really just threw in as much like different versions of whatever they could in order to have different versions to sell, like the Batman suits and like. God, there were nipples on the Batman costume.
Yeah, that was pretty unnecessary.
Oh, by the way, in the last movie, there's a bat ass shot, like
where
he's like, and then you hear like the tightening rubber, and then he turns around and zooms in on his ass.
No, it's literally just his ass for a solid 3 or 4 frames.
Yeah, it's so weird. Anyway, back to this movie. It's not good. Everything you said was just perfectly summing up. It wasn't made to be a good movie. It was meant to sell toys.
Absolutely.
Critics hated it. It was a box office like failure almost.
It bombed.
But they had to have made their money on toys.
Yeah, I gotta say that definitely feels like what they were doing. And I mean,
dude, and when you think about it, like what this movie did to Batman, the character, like the combination of these two movies,
set him back a little bit.
Like, when did this movie come out? There was like
this was
solid.
Like, I think 94 and 5. I'm probably wrong about that, but I mean, I'm pretty sure 95.
It's like
for one
almost
of them.
10 years before another Batman movie was made. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, 2005 was when Batman Begins came out.
Yeah,
sure.
and it's like, can you imagine if you were to say that today? Like
10 years,
considering like the absolute success that superheroes are. Like if you just say, "Oh yeah, it's they're not going to make another Spider-Man movie for 10 years," you would be like, "What are they thinking?"
Yeah, no fucking way.
What are they thinking? It is so preposterous to think you would kill a character's like usability in a market of film like that.
Yeah.
So hard, you don't make another movie for 10 years. That's what these two movies did.
Yeah.
They killed the cinema of Batman for 10 years.
I mean,
thank God Chris Nolan did something.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, if he didn't do that trilogy, I gotta say, Batman would probably have fallen into this category of superheroes. It's very gimmicky, very cartoony.
Aquaman.
Yeah, very Aquaman-y. I just, for me, these movies, bottom of the tier. These Batman, bottom of the tier. Again, Val Kilmer was not as bad, just to sum up, as I remember, but George Clooney was worse than I remember. Oh my God. You have anything else you want to say about these movies?
That's it. Combination score for these two movies, I'll give an average of 4.1.
I gave Batman Forever a 3.4 and Batman and Robin a 2.1.
Pretty cool.
Some pretty shit movies.
That's chill.
So sorry.
All right, let's move on to our next segment.
We got two TV spots. There's been there. We got two TV spots here. The Super Bowl. Okay. We got a Doctor Strange. Ben. Sorry. we got a Doctor Strange trailer for Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, true.
And we got a Moon Knight TV spot. Can
I take the lead on Doc and you take the lead on?
You can take a lead.
Moon. So Doctor Strange. Here's what I'm thinking. When we talked about earlier in our last episode, I think it was episode 3, about possible cameos for Doctor Strange, and you said, "Oh, Professor X, Patrick Stewart, or James McAvoy." I said, "I don't care." Right?
Like uninterested?
Like
or...
I just, if I were to see them pop up, I'd be like, "Well, that is Professor X." Yeah.
Like, cool, man. It's awesome.
I just don't have that drive. I'm not as much as X-Men fan as, like, I don't know, another person could be, but it's
I guess so. I'm just
when
not
we
interested
hear the
in
voice
the
of a possible Professor X, when Doctor Strange comes in the handcuffs, it makes me think about other possible cameos. And the only one I would want to see is probably, like, I'm feeling burnt out on cameos, man.
Yeah, I'm
feeling burnt out.
I am too. I was about to say, like, I honestly, I couldn't care less about these cameos. Like, I'll be excited to see some of these characters, like Professor X being obviously hinted, Patrick Stewart in the trailer, and I mean, any way you slice it, that's his voice. That's Patrick Stewart. We're gonna get him in. We're gonna get some version of Professor X in this movie. Yeah, these X-Men characters, it puts all the Fox X-Men characters on the table.
Yeah.
And I couldn't care less.
I know.
I really couldn't. I mean, honestly, there's been recent rumors that Daniel Radcliffe is going to pop up as...
Harry Potter?
No, as Wolverine. I mean, I'm just like, guys, I don't know. I mean, Deadpool is also rumored for this. And almost, I think Deadpool is almost confirmed for this, but I'm out. I'm out on the cameos, man. I really could not be less interested to see.
Disney has to know that people are maybe feeling a little bit burnt out on these cameos because they're putting them, like, on the poster.
Yeah.
Like in the shard mirror dimension is just...
Yeah, I mean the
you
couple
just see the reflection of, like, a bunch of people.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, these people could pop up.
I gotta say, the one thing that I took from this is I have no idea what the plot is gonna be, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine not digging into this movie.
Let me tell you what the plot's going to be. I'm glad you brought that up. So I saw a theory. So a theory I saw on what was going on was that America Chavez, right? She and Defender Strange are, like, in a universe together, and then they together are fighting, like, this multiversal, like, demon or, like, being, right? But Defender Strange has to sacrifice himself. Right, and that zombie Strange with all the arms that you see is actually is Defender Strange.
I think I did see that somewhere. Yeah.
So it's possible that, like, he sacrifices himself to save her. Right. She is thrust through the multiverse and asks our Strange for help, pretty much.
Yeah.
Being like, "Hey, I need your help," and then Defender Strange is, like, turns evil somehow, and then they, like, fight each other.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, that's a very strong possibility. Honestly, though. That sounds really interesting, and that matches up with what a lot of what we saw in the trailer. I gotta say, though, I am wondering how do we get there from the scene that I assume we start at, which is Wanda and him in that, like, orchard, in that house that we see her in at the end of WandaVision. I'm like,
oh yeah,
how do we get from there to there? Because I think both are semi-likely and confirmed. I have no idea. And I guess the one last thing that I'll say that I'm excited about is the Illuminati is obviously in this film.
Yeah.
Like, the comic Illuminati is obviously in this film, and I'm excited to see that. But honestly, I just the cameos. I like you said, I'm a little burnt out here, and I mean, again, Book of Boba Fett did it to me, bro.
Yeah.
The Book of Boba Fett did it to me.
I mean,
I'm
Book of
sorry.
Boba, you're ruining the industry,
It's
man.
gonna ripple. It's gonna ripple for the rest of the year.
So let's get into the Moon Knight trailer.
Yeah. Okay.
We got the thing that sticks out the most is when he flings his cape and it makes like his little symbol.
Ben.
Like so cool.
Ben.
That's so sick.
The way I have written down, all I needed for this series was that 15-second clip of him jumping with his cape forming the crescent. That's all I need from this series, dude.
Bro, that was so cool.
Shut it down. That's all I needed.
That's it. Keep the cape scenes, Disney. More cape scenes.
More cape scenes, please. Honestly.
Yeah, super hype. I'm very hyped for that one. It's coming out in like a few weeks, right? March something.
I think in March. Yeah,
March. Cool.
But I gotta say, I don't have really anything to say about this except my expectations. I'm so sorry. Are like through the roof. Like
really,
they are. This is the first series that Kevin Feige has definitively said we're not pulling back anything. Like this is going to be a huge tonal shift.
It's going to be a sex scene. I'm totally cutting that out.
But yeah, I mean that's like him saying that it's a huge tonal shift and that they aren't pulling anything back. My expectations are Daredevil level like brutality, which is what I've wanted to see because I mean Marvel is really family oriented kind of thing. But
let's move on to the next
one. Let's go ahead and move on. And moving on, we're actually going to cut right here because it's time for Uncharted.
All right, Jeremy, are you ready to do a little? What do I say? All right, Jeremy, are you ready to do a little actual movie review? We haven't gotten a lot of movies. We're in like this dead space of movies.
Very much so.
But finally, we got a movie that we can talk about in Uncharted.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy, we have a little guest to go along with it. Luke, welcome to Not Quite Cinema Podcast. I want to thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, Jeremy, Ben. I mean, we've talked countless movies together over the years, and you know, me being a recent graduate from FSU, I got a little time on my hands before I start looking into the great world in the beyond, and I thought I'd hop on to talk about one of my favorite video game franchises turned to the big screen, and how that played out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Luke, we're just gonna hop right into it. Jeremy, let's go. Like, what did we think of this movie?
Okay, so
start us with something.
All right, for me, I think my biggest thing for this movie, one, I thought the acting was pretty subpar, but I think a lot of the disconnect between me and the mainstream opinion, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, and we can dive into it, but I'm not sold on Tom Holland as
You're
Nathan
not sold
Drake.
on Tom Holland.
I'm really
I agree
not.
with you. I agree with you that the acting was not there, but I don't think it was the actors themselves as much as the fact that they didn't fit these roles that they were playing all that well. I mean, Tom Holland he doesn't seem like the brawny, like serious, like adventure type, you know? I mean, we think Nathan Drake from the video games, you see that scruff, you see that kind of like really worn down and tore down kind of
I was
like
gonna say seasoned.
He's
very
seasoned, absolutely. And then you get Sully, who's the old man, who's just like too cocky.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg didn't fit this for me. I mean, Luke, how were they for you? Did they kind of fit those characters well, or no?
No, from the very beginning, there was just a major disconnect with what the movie was trying to accomplish in bringing the themes and a lot of the plot points from Uncharted 4 and the weird de-aging of basically all the characters involved. Tom Holland, say what you want about him in other films, but I could not buy him as Nathan Drake for the life of me. Maybe that's just cognitive bias, thinking of Nathan Drake from the video games and what my expectations are of someone like that. But Tom Holland, to me, it was more Peter Parker trying to play Indiana Jones than anything else. I could not buy him as Nathan Drake. And as for Sully, not only was Mark Wahlberg not that good of a comparison to Sully in the casting, but I just thought that the way he approached the different characters and the way he came off and talked and the discourse that he had with each character was just non-existent. Like, it came out one ear and went out the other. Just for the life of me, I could not get a single interesting thing from what Mark Wahlberg brought to the table.
Totally agree.
Totally.
Completely agree.
Perfectly said, Luke. I just got to say that was perfectly said.
The Peter Parker thing, really,
Yeah.
really accurate.
Absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
definitely.
it is what it is. I mean, Tom Holland, I don't know if it's a typecast. I don't.
It's not a typecast. That's
me-
just who he is.
Yeah.
Right
To
now,
me,
in
he
his
is being
mid-20s.
he is being asked to do, sorry to cut you off there, Ben. You
Oh,
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say he's being cast for a lot of the same roles, just in different themes and different genres.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it goes along with saying that it's not his fault. It's just where he is as a person. He's in his mid-20s, right? Late 20s. And I mean, you just can't expect him to fill these roles where it's supposed to be like, oh, this is like crazy serious. It deals with like the character, and like source material is based on a character who's like maybe mid-30s, like a whole 10 years. That's a big gap to like try to fill the shoes of, you know? I mean, he played a little kid in Spies in Disguise. He was
Spies in Disguise.
I mean, he was like in another animated movie. Oh, he was in Doctor Dolittle as like a bird or something like that.
He was? Oh,
He just
wow.
doesn't have that voice. He's a great actor. He's such a good actor, but like I feel like it's the voice
He needs
and the
levity.
youngness in his face,
Yeah.
where it's just the levity there is just it doesn't convey the type of character that Nathan Drake is.
Agreed. I definitely think, yeah, Nathan Drake needs to be, like we said, this kind of seasoned adventurer who, has a more serious tone to him. And I think in some ways he hits that chord, but I don't know. Yeah, I just can't get over the appearance. I'm sorry. Like, I hate to use the term babyface, but like, kind of.
Young man. He's a young
he's
man.
young, and for me, it doesn't fit the Nathan Drake thing, which I think kind of points to a more structural problem with video game adaptations. Is I will always, and I'm not wrong for doing it, I will always go into these movies wanting not a carbon copy, but these characters from the video game at least. I want them back. Like, I want
them
those
to
characters
be portrayed on screen.
Yeah,
I want
don't
a
need
2-hour-long cutscene.
Exactly. I don't need like an interpretation of different versions. I want to see that version that I grew to love. I mean, what do you kind of think? Like,
one thing I'll note about how the process of this film came to be. This was on Roger Ebert's review of it, but according to this article, there were 6 different guys that were in line to direct this movie, and it went through all these different trials. And you have to expect that after this many meetings and this many kind of meetings of the minds, it was gonna fall to the law of averages and end up being an average film. And that's kind of what we got. There was no real bite. There was no real character. There was no real significant moniker of any one director's vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, Luke, because when you see a movie go through that many directors, like it wasn't even like, oh, they were in line to direct it, but maybe they just decided not to. They were hired and then they were fired or left on their own accord, because this movie brought so much turmoil and disagreement and creative disagreement, right? Because they probably had people like us in a room saying like, well, we got to make the YouTube, or not YouTube. We got to make
this is all new.
We got to make
for me.
we got to make the video game into a movie.
Yeah,
Like, what are we doing here? Why are we like casting Tom Holland? And they said, get the fuck out of the room. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, okay, yeah. And they finally got someone to agree to direct it. And I mean, I think the direction was there, but the amount of plot holes that were in this film and the story beats that were not hit and the character like relationships that were just dull and boring, it really made this movie a poor film for me.
Yeah, I
An
think
average film.
Yeah, the last 2 things that I'll say about this before we move on, first of all, the CGI traveling with the plane, that was pretty rough, guys.
I understand why it's inspired, Indiana Jones, but
too much Indiana Jones. It gave me
Indiana Jones.
I said this to you in the movie, but it gave me Risk, the mobile game vibes.
Oh yeah, it looked like Risk.
It was
so bad. So bad.
But
as someone who holds Raiders of the Lost Ark in the upper echelon of movies of all time, I mean, this was just a spit in the face of that. Just constant railroading of MacGuffins. I mean, going from city to city, not really accomplishing anything in the emotional intelligence of the characters. Just really a streamlined bland movie.
Yeah, and the very last thing I'll say is the connection between the plot points, like how we got from one event to another.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those connections were just bad or semi preposterous. Like we pointed this one out when we were in the movie where Nathan Drake, Tom Holland, he's just kind of coasting along the coast, and they show us a map, and they're like, here's where the villains are going to check for the treasure. Here's where Tom's going to check for the treasure, and then we see him pass by the villains on their beach, and the main villain, I forget what her character name is, but she looks in the spyglass and she's like, there he is. Yeah. Let's get him.
Luke, little test for you right here, Luke. What was the name of the bad villain with like the shaved head? What was her name?
She didn't have a shaved head.
I could not tell you. I could not tell you. I could not remember.
Yeah, the villains were very subpar.
Without looking it up, but that's the crazy part. They tried to make her that significant in killing off what I thought was a more intriguing character in Antonio Banderas' character, and they kill him off to replace him with this girl. And I can't even, you can't tell me what her name is. That's how insignificant they made the characters feel.
I totally agree with you right there, because it's like, this goes into my point about plot points and how there are plot holes in this film. Like, she kills him, takes over his army or whatever, and then no one kind of like revolts against that, and they just kind of go along with it. So I guess everyone was in on it, right?
By the way, this man bleeds.
No, everyone was in on it except Chloe.
I guess,
which is something that I'm just like, how did no one see that?
Were they though? Like, honestly, I read that. Right? I read that moment more as like they were just like, okay, she's got the power now. All right, cool. I'll follow you. You'll still get me the money. Like, all right.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because Moncada, he was taking the money for his family, for himself. Like, he was still paying them, but I feel like under, I guess I'll just call her the blonde-haired villain. Like, is like the one thing that she might have brought to the table is like, we'll take a more even split of everything. But yeah, the villains were kind of surface level, and the very, very last thing I'll say about this movie, Moncada bled for a second. And then he died.
It looked like a paper cut, too.
It looked like a paper cut.
It didn't even look deep at all.
Yeah.
The whole scene was just very abrupt, and it played out that way with his death. I was like they get to that point, and for a second go, oh, and then there's really nothing to ponder after that. It's just from there on out, it's this chick instead of Antonio Banderas' character.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you bothering to bring this man's
The whole movie has
a
theme of like betrayal, like, oh, you can't trust people. You got to learn how to trust people.
I felt like it was trying to be No Sudden Move and Raiders of the Lost Ark all at the same time,
and then you just get it. But like these betrayals just become mindless, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Well,
what were you gonna say, Luke?
I think it gets to the point where there are so many betrayals that you lose. Like, they never try to build up the relationships and the huge emotional points within these characters for the betrayals to have any sort of significant meaning at all.
Yeah, very
true. Exactly.
Well, all right. Let's finish up here because we're running pretty long. Like, I'll just go around. Luke, we'll start with you. What score did you give this film?
So I usually rate my movies on a scale of 10, and I would give this one a 4.5. I thought it was a below average movie, to be completely honest with you. And I know that you guys have a different rating system. You got to introduce me to that so that I can give an accurate version of you guys' rating.
Okay. Well, all of us, Jeremy and I gave it a 5.5, but it's possibly going to go lower the more I think about it, right? What about you, Jeremy?
Okay, let people not think that Ben and I are just one mind. Obviously, we're not. But like, I also gave it a 5.5. We do it out of 10. We just we try to give it more, like phrases rather than just the numerical value.
The designation that this movie is, if we were to sum it up in one little small phrase, this movie is a $5 Tuesday movie.
If your local theater has a discount night, that's the night, guys.
This is the movie you see it.
That's the night.
Yeah.
You don't go and see this for $11. You go and see this for $5.
This is not a full price movie.
Okay.
Just pay it on a $5 Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's it.
Literally. Does anyone have anything else to add for this before we move on?
No. I'm excited for Uncharted 2, maybe. I don't know.
I'm not.
Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the one disservice that took me over the edge was the fact that they sprinkled in a little. I mean, are we giving spoilers? I guess we're already giving spoilers.
Feel free.
I don't know why even consider that before I started talking about this. But just the idea that they're considering bringing back Uncharted 2 for a movie is a disservice to Uncharted fans everywhere.
It's a little offensive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Our very last section today, our boy, not really our boy, but very famous director, 82 years old, Francis Ford Coppola, very world renowned, has made some of the best movies of all time.
Godfather specifically.
Godfather specifically, I think is the one most people associate with him. He also did The Outsiders, which I didn't know. I liked that movie a lot. But anyway, he came out Team Scorsese this week.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was an interview or not, but there was a press statement that came out that he said, a Marvel picture is one prototype that is made, not kidding, he said, over and over and over and over and over and over again to look different. Which, I mean, first of all...
Okay, he's got a point.
Yeah, he does. It's formulaic.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. Yeah, but I mean, he also goes on to take a shot at Dune and take a shot at
No Time
to Die, and he's like, oh, these creative directors, they're trapped in these mindless, shitty stories. I'm like, you're full of shit, bro. Like, actually. How can you look at those stories and say, oh, this is all one thing? I'm like, no, it's just not what you define.
Here's the thing.
Like,
I hate the fact that he said that about Dune, because the Dune film that came out 2021, right? It was super faithful to the source material.
It was very faithful.
And the fucking source material came out 60 years ago.
It did.
So, like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
If anything, movies today follow that.
Yeah.
Because it was so impactful and influential to, like, the sci-fi genre and fantasy genre.
Yeah, and I mean, we've both said, and I know Luke has said as well, that, yeah, these Marvel movies are getting a little formulaic for us. We are getting kind of bored with these cookie cutter stories that do feel the same over and over again, specifically origin stories. And, you know, the way that Marvel movies first, second, and third act. But I don't know. Like, I just think it's really, I think it's incredibly reductive.
Yeah.
To just take these certain aspects and be like, oh, okay, this excessive action, this excessive origin story trope, like, oh man, like, you can't complain because it's trending upwards for
what
audiences.
Do you think, Luke?
I mean,
so you guys are more well versed in the actual interview that he gave, where he rattled this stuff off. I think he's off base on Dune when he's talking about that. I think that's actually one of the marvels of the new technology that we're able to produce. That you're able to take what was a great concept for a movie back when it was first released, the original cut, the original version of Dune, and
great movie.
It was like. Now we have it in 2021 where it's that much better of a movie. It's up for an Oscar. It should win multiple Oscars this year. So I think he's off base when he's commenting on that. I will say though, I don't completely disagree with him in that Marvel movies are getting formulaic. Due to outside reasons beyond just the art of cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I gotta say, honestly, he went a little too scorched earth for my taste. Like, he ended up during the interview, he ended up calling the franchise, quote, despicable. And I'm like, seems like a lot. I mean, honestly, for me, it really just seems like he said again, like, these films aren't personal, and I wholly disagree. These films can be incredibly personal. Like, I love these movies, and they resonate with me a lot. Just because they don't resonate with you because you're 82, I'm sorry.
I mean, you're not the audience, bud. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it's trending in a different direction, but cinema still exists within these movies. That's insane to me that he's submitting. I mean, that these movies are invalid.
The audience over the last 20 years has gotten like really, really smart and really, really observant. But 82-year-old men who made good films 40 years ago just aren't the audience. You know, because that's what I feel like that's what it used to be. You make movies for the people that are in charge, right? And now I feel like they're making it for like the general person, you know? It's so much more accessible. Everything's like, it feels better because I like modern movies way more than older movies. It's just, the times are changing. And instead of like criticizing and bringing down and calling a certain art despicable, it's not the right thing to do, and it's a bad look.
Yeah, I mean, again, no, go ahead, Luke, sorry.
I would just ask where the constructive part of his criticism was. What would he do differently?
There is none.
That's true. Yeah.
We hold him up to a higher standard because of the movies that he's directed in the past. But if he's not willing to give insightful criticism that could further the production of movies and further the industry towards something more creative like he wants, then what was really the point of him mouthing off about it?
Yeah, I think the thing is I think him just stating what it is his criticism.
Yeah, I definitely think that him just insulting it, he perceives that as, honestly, like, I'm sorry to be so emotionless about this, but this is exactly what it feels like. Mm-hmm. A dying filmmaker trying to cling to the industry that he knew and that he hopes still prevails. Good old days. Yeah, I'm like, it's just not that way anymore. Like, CGI is a part of filmmaking now. Like, action sequences are a huge part of filmmaking now, and it has broad appeal. He's not wrong about that, but you can't bag on it because that's trending upwards for audiences. I mean, come on, like, you have to move with the industry. It's just honestly kind of frustrating, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Do you have anything else to add?
I give Francis Ford Coppola a 2.2 on that interview.
I give him a 1. Give him a 1. Luke, you got anything else to add about?
I would give him a slightly better rating than Marty's criticism of it. I'll give him a 3. I'll give him a 3.
I'm a 3. Solid 3. Let's go. Nice. All right, is that going to cover all of our topics for this week,
that is everything. Remember, guys, follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. Not Quite Cinema, and we upload 12:30 every Sunday. And that's going to do us, I think, for this week. Luke,
thanks for joining us.
Again, real quick, sorry, Luke. Thank you for coming on this week. Hopefully, we can have you on a little more regularly.
Absolutely. Whenever you guys need me, I'll be on call.
Let's go. Fantastic.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Adios.
We'll see you next week.